best a man can get.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer Cirs Carter. This right here is Nick Wright. Somehow, someway, we made it to Friday, and we have a fantastic show for you today because football is in full effect. Training camps all over. Aaron Rodgers thinks his Packers are being overlooked. Baker Mayfield and OBJ are already looking pretty good together in Cleveland. Wait till you see some of the action from yesterday. But we start the program with the most scrutinized flight manifest yesterday, that of the Dallas Cowboys. Most of the team boarded a plane from Dallas to Oxnard, California, site of the Cowboys training camp. One notable absentee, Ezekiel Elliott. So much talk the last couple of days about whether he'd be a holdout or not as he awaits a contract extension. Well, he was a no-show yesterday on that plane. Now, he still has the opportunity to show up today in order to officially avoid a holdout. But, Chris, I'll start with you. What do you make of Ezekiel Elliott not being on the team plane yesterday?
I don't make anything of him not being on the plane because the option of him not traveling with the team, providing your own transportation, getting there, a number of players always are going to take that option. But with the fact that of a potential holdout, that he's not happy with his contract, the flight is not a big deal. It's what he decides to do. He's got two options. He either not show up to camp and stay firm to his to wanting a new deal, or he can go to camp and tell them, I'm not going to participate in the games because I don't want to jeopardize or get hurt. He wasn't going to play that much in the preseason anyway, but your teammates respect that more so. The teammates aren't going to say anything about you holding out, but they really respect you being there, getting the work in, because you're not setting the team up and yourself up for disappointment, especially that first month of the season if you miss all that time. But as far as missing the flight, it's not required for him to be there because the conversations have begin to escalate. The rumor that he might not show up, that makes it a bigger deal. But for the players and for me and what I think Zeke's going to do, it's not a big deal.
So I'm really glad you brought up the teammates and how they're going to react to what Zeke decides to do, either in not showing up, but letting the team know I'm not going to play in the preseason games, or I suppose it might be on the board. Maybe the least likely is, no, I'm going to show up, be a full go, whatever you need from me, I trust it gets done. In that, typically, players don't count other players' money. They know, listen, it's a business. But there are two guys.
Well, players, no, let me correct you. Players count other players' money. You're just not supposed to talk about it.
Okay, fair enough. So that might be the better way. They don't publicly count other players' money, even if in their own head. They know what the scoreboard says. Dak and Amari, the team has publicly said those guys have to get new deals and are getting new deals. Dak and Amari both only have 1 year left on their deals. Zeke's got 2. And Dak, unlike Amari and unlike Zeke, was not a first-round pick and has never been paid. Dak Prescott has made less than $3.5 million in his entire football career. That is less money than Zeke is scheduled to make this season on a contract that he thinks has him underpaid. So these guys have seemed very close since they were drafted together. They have been the key pieces of this new era of Cowboy football. And Dak, I'm sure, is expecting a contract himself before that first game of the year against the New York Giants. I do find it interesting what potential locker room politics, even if they're able to keep it quiet, happen if Zeke attempts to cut the line almost, where Amari's got 1 year left, Dak's got 1 year left and has never been paid.
He's got 2 years left.
Zeke's got 2 years left and was a top 5 pick. So he might not be being paid what he feels he's worth, but he is still, even under his rookie deal, one of the 10 highest paid players on that football team. He makes more money than Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott's never made any real money. So that is something to me. So you can watch the football part of it. We know the Cowboys without Zeke, to me, they go from fringe Super Bowl contender to fringe, if at best, playoff contender. But also how this affects the locker room when Zeke, with 2 years left, tries to go to the head of the line as far as getting a new deal.
It's interesting because a lot of players were already interviewed about him not being on the plane. Almost everyone said it's not a distraction. Whatever it is, whether that's the truth or whether that's just, you know, everyone sort of giving the team motto out. But why would he show up for camp but not be on the plane? What's the message that sends? If he's going to show up, whether he plays in games or not, Why would you not be on the plane?
Well, for one, we assumed that he was going to take the flight the way he's done his rookie year, his second year, third. No, we don't know that. The only reason why we're making a big deal of the flight is because he talked about his contract. So now we're going to make a big deal about the flight. Besides that, who else was on the plane? Who else was missing from the plane?
Well, I think the question is for people that haven't reported to training camp, and you explained this a bit before the show.
What is the deal with the flight?
So let's just say Zeke had already gotten his new deal. You said he still might not take the flight, and you were saying
because it's not required,
and because
it's not mandatory to everyone fly with the team. All right, they don't have the typical training camp situation where they're in California and their home base is there in Dallas. So they have to, because they've been doing this for years. It's not like they just moved to Oxnard. The players have had the option as far as traveling with the team. They'll provide that, which they must, or you can go by yourself.
But you were saying before the show, one of the reasons you might travel by yourself is because you can, as simple as you can bring more stuff.
You can bring more personal items.
Right, like there's a lot of just things that we probably don't. We add a little palace intrigue to everything here because there is the contract talks looming. I hadn't even thought about it. It's just easier to bring the stuff you want. If you want to bring your own personal mattress, like to training camp.
What if you want your car there? You either get your car shipped or you have someone drive it up, do something like that. Just as simple.
So those types of almost just logistical reasons for it. But the other element for the Cowboys is usually when a player holds out or is potentially holding out, that's the player and management. The middleman here might be Jason Garrett. And the reason I bring that up is Jason Garrett didn't get no contract extension either. Jason Garrett is going into the final year of his deal. Jason Garrett and his future with the Dallas Cowboys, he knows this is a critical season for him, maybe the most critical season he's had since the year before they went 12-4 when he was firmly on the hot seat after a few 8-8 seasons. So I do wonder if Zeke doesn't show up, if Jason Garrett has a conversation with Stephen Jones about, listen, what's happening here? What do we think is how this is going to end? Because he knows with no Zeke, this Cowboys team can't reach its full potential. And if they don't do that, he probably won't be the head coach of the Cowboys this time next season.
All right, well, there's a lot to get to here. We'll have Bart Scott out in a little bit, although Jason Garrett seems like he's been on the hot seat for the last 4 or 5 years. Take a break. Coming up, much more football. Hey, are Aaron Rodgers and the Packers underdogs this year? That's next on First Things First. That is next. And you can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on Sirius XM. We're back right after this.
No, that was a pregnant pause. Yep. I think you're having a trip.